Bill had been playing, recently, and I think he felt, too, that he is always playing such a nice guy, and but he has an edge, in there somewhere, and that's what I liked about him. He's the kind of a regular guy, and he's smart. And he could be someone in trouble, and he could be someone sitting on a lot of trouble. And I don't know, it was just something about, I see something in his eyes or something, and he was just right for this part. Patricia, is a great actress, and she has a tremendous amount of courage. And she kind of had to do things in this picture that were like always, seemed pretty, difficult. And she never complained. She was always there, completely, raring to go. And I just really appreciated, her attitude, and she's so beautiful in both roles, and her part is so important, and she just did a great job. It was fun to work with. Well, the work should be enjoyable, and actors are asked to let go of themselves and take on somebody else, some other person, and it's a tricky business, and I don't like anything to interfere with that. So the more at ease they feel, the better, and really good things can happen if the atmosphere is right. The desert was beautiful, and we were working only at night, and maybe there was a couple of daytime things, but what was really beautiful was the wind and the dust, which was, kind of murder to work in, but beautiful on film, really beautiful. And then there's a lot of existing music that, we're using in the film, and some great, great pieces. But music has to live in the story, live in the film. So there's a lot of music that's great, but it doesn't sit inside the picture. So I'm listening to a lot of different music, and only like a fraction of it is stuff that makes the whole larger than the sum of the parts or whatever. Bill's job was to, which he did, fantastically, was to, study that horn, and he took lessons, and he'd play in front of the mirror, and he memorized every note of this, very abstract, kind of intense, these two pieces. And he was a killer, on stage. He was pretty amazing, and had it down. He was, a sax player. I was always drawing and painting, and in the 9th grade I went to school in Virginia, and one day on the front lawn of a girl's house I met my friend Toby, and talking to him he mentioned this fact that changed my whole life. He said his father was a painter. I thought he meant a house painter, and no, he was a painter. And so I had come from the Northwest, and I was like living in this world where I didn't think it was people were painters. I never heard of it before, and once I heard that it was possible, that was it for me from then on. And it completely, just filled me with happiness, and I was different. Boom!
both Fred and Renee have got locked in each other's kind of this grip on each other, which they are incredibly vulnerable and raw to each other. And it's a place that's very bad to be if you're in a relationship where you're so vulnerable to behavior, innuendo, doubts, all of that. It's really, it's a kind of picks up the story with these two people who are having a real hard time of it, and it doesn't get rosier. He's very curious about the process of the event of making the shot, and I think that makes it exciting too. You know, he really has a sense of, between action and cut, that there's going to be something that he hasn't planned for, something that's going to be truer to what, more revealing to him about this enigma that he's wrestling with, and that makes it fun. He's so truthful that you just, that's what you build your trust on, you know. He'll really, it's not a lot of hot air, and he's supportive, you know, and everything, but if something didn't go quite as well as hoped, he wouldn't go, well, no, I think it was all right, you know. He would say, it's been better, but I've got everything I need. There's two people who are with each other, and they're challenging each other to not be possessive in the most extreme way possible. Two people who, you know, for all reasons, are constantly giving great irritation to each other about whether you're really with this person or not with this person, and you have to really believe in a deeper thing than just the outward manifestations of it. And our relationship is like the exact opposite of that. We're like two people who are challenging to each other to kind of, for particularly on my end, to feel totally unchallenged, and the least disturbance to any kind of sense of trust is picked up and magnified. It's been really, really good fun to work on it. I think there's great sense in the crew about that they're working for somebody that is kind of has some tangible creativity that, you know, when he shows up on the set.
Well, just as an actor, there were certain emotional things that people were going through in the movie that on some base level I could understand. You know, there's just this little small clump of human emotions of jealousy, envy, you know, pride, whatever they are. So it was interesting to see them. And also that creepy edge was all through it, and that was it's interesting when someone can really write that. That's like a different dimension. In Picasso's day, people just didn't understand what he was doing there. How could that be a woman's face? How could that be a portrait of someone? But some artists have really different visions. And, you know, this is the medium that they paint. And sometimes you move around like a doll in their dollhouse, you know. It's interesting. When you work on a David Lynch movie, you are in his world, and you're trying to understand his image, his vision, and I don't always get it, but I know whatever it is, it's interesting and it's important. When I would talk to David about the differences between these women, you know, he has very distinct feelings about who they are, so I thought, well, I could play one very different than the other one. And that could be really exciting as an actor, to really change the vocal quality of each and change all these, the way they spoke, the way they moved themselves. But he kept saying to me, they are the same person. They are the same person. So, I mean, you're just trying to figure out your way in there. It's a balancing act. When I first read the script, my concept of it was jealousy can overwhelm a person, and I think that Fred's character is incredibly jealous. Although he's a man of the 20th century and, in a way, a hip man on the street, and he knows what's happening in the world, So I don't think he would be comfortable expressing his jealousy, because he would feel like he was barbaric. They have a very dishonest relationship. I mean, I think she's in a way very fearful of him. She doesn't know what he's really capable of. He doesn't want to admit who he really is. So they have this stalemate relationship where it's almost like in their marriage you feel that the word divorce is just constantly between them. But it's almost like a standoff of these two animals. Who's going to leave first? Well, at first I thought, am I a figment of someone's imagination? So how am I supposed to get into someone's head and figure out what is that, you know? Because you already have a boundary. You already have a line of demarcation because there's a man writer, a man director. So what is a man's idea of a woman? So you got to figure out, well, each man's idea of a woman is different, but what is this man who's directing this movie's idea of woman? Or there's also a lot about the sexual power and prowess of women and the destructive quality of that. He directs musically. He'll listen to certain kinds of music in one earphone while he'll listen to the scene and watch it. He already has his music picked out for different parts, and he writes music himself. So in a way, he'll talk about the way he directs mostly is musically. He'll say, slow it down, take your time. We'll be driving the car in the middle of the desert, and he'll say, you know, I guess you should go about, I don't know, 50. You'll know when you click into that place that feels right. And you do when you hit that, because the speedometer doesn't work or whatever, and you do feel when it's the right place. It's just hard to find that metronome, what beat it's ticking at, because it's very specific for him.
It was a matter of deciphering it, actually. It's not something that jumps off the page with a clarion message of what it's about and whatever. It's probably as shocking as maybe a Cubist painting was to a representative painting. You know, and it's a different form. It should involve you. Art should do that. And, it's not to say for you to sit dumbly and be sort of entertained. You know, it should involve all your senses, and I think that this script, this film, will hopefully do that. In fact, it will do that, not just hopefully. I know it will. It grabs you. It seizes your attention, and I think the fact that it's mysterious is good. There isn't if someone said, well, what are you doing? I said, I'm doing a picture called Lost Highway for David Lynch. Oh, David Lynch. Immediately they're interested. Well, then say, well, what's the story? And I said, if I could tell you that, I'd be ahead of the game. Mr. Eddie isn't that far a jump for me to play. You know, the nature of the fellow is quite clear. He's a guy you don't mess with. He's made of concrete. He tells it like it is. He has a gal. As he says, that he loves to death, and anybody who he found out was making out with her, takes a gun out. He said, I'll take this gun, and he's very graphic in what he's going to do with the gun. He's the Toscanini. He's the conductor. He's got the rhythm of it. He's got the vision. And the actors follow, not like sheep, but they follow his lead, like good musicians. And David is a filmmaker. And the reason we're trying to find, to articulate what the script is or what is, we don't really know. I don't know now. I've been shooting quite a few days. I still don't really know where we're going, which is exciting. And I don't know what the end result is going to be.